Welcome to meeting number 27 of the Standing Committee on Transport, Infrastructure and Communities, pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. The committee is commencing its study of the loan from the Canada Infrastructure Bank to the Mercy River Wind Project. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the standing orders. I'd like to make a few comments for the benefit of witnesses and members. First, please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those on Zoom, at the bottom of your screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either floor, English, or French. For those in the room, you can use the earpiece and select the desired channel. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on Zoom, please use the raise hand function. The clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. Colleagues, before I welcome the witnesses for the first half of today's meeting, I would like to bring to your attention the budget for this study that was circulated to all members. Moved by Mr. Albus. All those in favor of adopting the budget? All those opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, colleagues. Appearing before us today for the first half of the meeting, we have from the Canada Infrastructure Bank, Mr. Aaron Corey, Chief Executive Officer by video conference. Welcome to you, sir. Sachin Gunaratna, Managing Director by video conference as well, and Monsieur Frédéric Duguay, General Counsel and Corporate Secretary, also joining by video conference. Welcome to all three of you. We'll now turn the floor over to you, Mr. Corey, for your opening remarks, and for that you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, honorable members of the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today in relation to your Mercy River Wind Farm project study. Joining me, as mentioned by the chair, are Frédéric Duguay, who is our General Counsel and Corporate Secretary, and Sachin Gunaratna, who is the Managing Director in our investment team who led the Mercy River investment. Across Canada, electricity needs are growing, and meeting that demand while keeping power reliable and affordable is a real challenge. The
Canada Infrastructure Bank was created to help deliver critical infrastructure across the country, and we have a specific mandate to invest in clean energy projects.
In Nova Scotia, the demand for electricity is growing, and at the same time, the province is transitioning away from coal-fired power generation. This requires major capital investment to add clean power and renewable technologies. And as this transition occurs, the province and Premier Houston are equally focused on maintaining access to reliable and affordable energy. To date, the CIB is investing in 8 clean energy projects in Nova Scotia, 6 wind projects, a transmission intertie with the province of New Brunswick, and the province's first energy storage project. Nationally, we're committed to financing currently 24 clean power projects, and all of these are designed to increase supply, strengthen reliability, and help mitigate the financial impact on ratepayers. Across all of our priority sectors, for committee members' reminder, as of December 31st, the CIB has invested $18 billion across 108 projects. 11 of those are completed, 89 are in construction. And since our launch in 2017, the CIB has become an increasingly efficient operation. Since July 2024, we've been collecting enough revenue from the repayment of capital and interest to cover 100% of the CIB's operating costs. Additionally, the CIB's operating expenses represented only 0.2% of the capital we've committed to projects, meaning more than 99% of our spending is directed to delivering the infrastructure that Canadians need.
For all our investments, we crowd in private capital. We act as a catalyst and not as a competitor to the private sector to help unstick projects. Every project undergoes a market sounding to confirm that private partners will participate alongside us.
Entirely by the private sector, we do not invest. Now, the Mercy River Wind Farm is expected to generate almost 150 megawatts, enough to energize more than 50,000 homes. As the first project under Nova Scotia's Renewables to Retail program, it allows consumers to buy energy produced from 100% renewable sources directly, introducing consumer choice and competition in the market, and it supports the province's emission reductions goals. As a first-of-its-kind model, the project carries unique first-mover and revenue risks, particularly around securing and retaining retail customers. This meant that traditional private lenders were not prepared to finance the full project on their own. Et c'est là que la BIC est entrée en cause. We are lending 206
And that's where the BIC came in, a CIB came in.
alongside Slate Asset Management, the majority owner, and Roswell Development, the minority owner and construction manager. Our financing helped de-risk the project, crowd in private capital, and allow it to move forward. This loan was not provided at a below market rate. Given the unique commercial risks of the project, the prevailing market rate is being charged. It's true that's not always the case in the CIB's investments. The interest rate we charge varies for each and reflects the specific risks being addressed. As an arm's-length organization, the CIB's board and management makes independent, nonpartisan commercial investment decisions. Across all 108 of our investments, we apply a consistent and rigorous process to confirm that a project fits within our mandate, delivers public benefits, and meets our strict due diligence standards. This includes conflict of interest checks, know your client reviews, and compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. And the Mercy River Wind Farm project was no exception. The project aligns with our clean power sector and the CIB Act. And following a rigorous review, no material conflicts of interest or client concerns were identified. Enfin, comme pour tous les projets financés par la BIC, il est important.
Lastly, like all CIB financed projects, important to repeat that CIB loans are repaid and repaid with interest. Repayment allows us to reinvest and get more infrastructure projects built while delivering good outcomes for Canadians.
Questions and the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. We'll begin our line of questioning today with Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. Canadians expect that taxpayer-backed financing decisions are going to be made on merit and also with strict due diligence and without political influence. Today, we're examining a $206 million loan from the Canada Infrastructure Bank to the wind farm project linked to several well-connected Liberal insiders, including former MPs. Mr. Corey, small businesses in communities like Haldimand, Norfolk, where I live, and across Canada are paying average bank rates of roughly 8%. We know that the Infrastructure Bank is funded by taxpayer dollars. So you can imagine how taxpayers feel that such deals are made in secrecy to Liberal insiders. Can you, Mr. Corey, tell us that this deal was the taxpayers that generally small businesses are taking out loans at 8% rate. Can you tell us that the rate that you have given on this project is less than 8%?
Mr. Chair, thanks, member, for the question. As I said in my opening comments, each of our projects, we charge an interest rate that's based on the individual project. But what I can confirm is on this project, we're charging what is a generally accepted market interest rate for a large industrial wind project of this nature. So the financing, the reason for that is because why we did this loan is all about the risk of the consumer program, as I described. This is the first in this what's called renewables to retail program, where Nova Scotians can choose to buy their power directly from a 100% renewable source. It creates choice in the market and allows both industrial and retail clients to buy clean power directly from source.
Corey, what exactly is the interest rate? What exactly is the interest rate? Could you tell us what the interest rate that was granted to this company is?
Mr. Chair, as we've discussed at this committee in the past, each of our negotiations, given that they're bespoke and they're competitive, we don't disclose individual interest rates, but what I can confirm is that this is a market rate.
Well, Mr. Corey, do you believe that taxpayers who pay your salary and who fund these loans deserve to know the terms of a $206 million loan that appears to benefit Liberal Party-connected insiders?
Mr. Chair, the loan benefits Nova Scotians because it creates new renewable power in the province and it creates consumer choice to be able to buy clean power. That is who the loan benefits. To be very clear, every one of the CIB's loans, and I think taxpayers, we are extremely transparent with our owners, which are all of you, and taxpayers, with all of our money. You can find on our website the details of this investment, the size of it, who the borrower is, where the project is located. We'll continue to be as transparent as we can possibly be because we think that's absolutely part of our jobs.
Curry,
We
we're
think
not
this
asking
loan
for
meets
commercial
all of that.
secrets. We're not asking for commercial secrets. We're asking about transparency with taxpayers' money. And you know very well that the average business person pays 8% interest to borrow money to fund their business. And this is not what was the rate for this company. We know that it is substantially lower than what the average taxpayer or business rate is getting.
Mr. Chair, I think the benchmark interest rate that you would use for a project like this is other large-scale renewable and energy projects across the country, and that's the competitive interest rate we're charging. I don't think it's a direct comparison, perhaps, to small borrowers, as Dr. Lewis asks, but for sure, we're charging a rate that would match what you'd see on projects like this across the country.
But any company that's choosing to accept public financing, they should expect a higher level of scrutiny than a standard private bank. What is the secret about what the interest rate is? Do you not believe that taxpayers have the right to know what rate their funds from the CIB is lending out at?
Mr. Chair, the CIB operates as a commercial institution. We're a Crown corporation whose job is to get value for taxpayers, but we operate as a commercial institution lending money to people across the country. I think it is actually part of our negotiations with those parties to have confidentiality in terms. So I don't want to be completely.
I don't know if it's 1% or 2% or 3%. You will not disclose that because it's a secret liberal insider deal. So you will not disclose the rate.
Mr. Chair, I'll just repeat that the interest rate is an acceptable market rate, higher than those quoted by the member.
Mr. Corey, did the bank know before granting this low-interest taxpayer-funded loan that the individuals involved in this project had past roles in the Liberal government and or political activity?
Yeah, I'm going to have Mr. Duguay talk through our diligence, but I'll just say, Mr. Chair, that the way our work goes when we are approached for a loan, in this case by the equity owner slate, we conduct a review of the project, and eventually, if we decide to move forward with the loan, we conduct due diligence, which includes conflict of interest checks and what's called in the financial industry know your client reviews, which were conducted on this project. Mr. Duguay can speak to the specifics.
Actually, Mr. Corey, did you
Lewis,
know, because you said
we're out of time, so I can let Mr. Duguay add to that if you'd like, because I think it would be helpful for the committee. Mr. Duguay, you'd have 30 seconds to please add on to the response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Briefly, in 30 seconds, we have adopted due diligence guidelines. They are transparent and publicly available on our guideline. We have on our website. It's referred to as our integrity due diligence policy, where we conduct due diligence KYC checks across all project counterparties, which would include the corporate entity and the principals behind the corporate entity, and that would include reviews that are aligned with guidance published by FinTrack and adopted by other financial institutions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duguay, and thank you, Dr. Lewis. Next, we'll turn the floor over to Ms. Fancy. You have 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair. So I am the Member of Parliament for South Shore St. Margaret's, who is at the heart of this matter, and I'm here today to talk about my constituents and the benefits that this project has to them, not only for them, but all of Nova Scotians. So, currently, Nova Scotians are struggling under the weight of rising power bills due to having no competition and monopoly. The town of Bridgewater recently put out, which is in my riding, put out that $4,000 per year per person in my riding is what the cost for current power is. So with 94,000 constituents in my riding, that's $376 million that's leaving my riding every year in power. Mersey Wind sells to renewal, supplies the municipalities, the towns, and the businesses less than what the current ratepayers are paying. So people in my riding right now are very upset that we're even having to sit in here today because we are desperately seeking alternatives to energy. And some people can't afford to literally keep the lights on. So first, this is also the first wind project that has never been selling to Nova Scotia Power. So like our Mr. Corey said in the beginning, this is the first time that we have, exactly straight to retail. Since 1992, Nova Scotia has been under this monopoly when the Conservative government at the time sold the public utility to Nova Scotia Power, or MIRA. So it's currently choking our ratepayers in the province with no plan to help the crumbling infrastructure or grid. What Mersey Wind and this project will do is force their hand to speaking for the people in Nova Scotia. This project, people forget, this project is about jobs too. This is 250 potential jobs in my riding. And I know anyone across the way right now would be advocating for that many highly skilled jobs in their riding, the same way I'm trying to do today. So talk about frustration between myself and the outpour of information that I've been getting from my constituents. I think we forget too that your former colleague from across the way that used to represent our riding, very happy that I beat him, was also involved in these consultations over the last almost 4 years. Nova Scotia is a small province. My last name's fancy. If you look my last name up in our phone book, there's 3 pages of us, right? People know each other. That's not conflict. That is the reality of our small communities. I wonder how many Conservatives sit on the Nova Scotia board, the Nova Scotia Power Board, who are upset with their monopoly being broken by plans like this. Mersey Wind is about competition, and I'm going to continue to stand firmly and unapologetically for this project, my constituents, all ratepayers in my wonderful province. I've got a couple of questions here we'll go with Sachin, who was our case manager. My question to you, Sachin, is how does this project benefit not only my constituents, but all Nova Scotians?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, member, for the question. The Canada Infrastructure Bank has been working very closely with the province since our inception in identifying the priorities of the province and helping achieve those priorities. This project, along with the 6 other wind projects that we have financed, along with the transmission between New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and the battery projects, have benefited all of Nova Scotia in providing clean, reliable energy, and also with the other projects that we have financed, where we have provided concessionary investment, have helped the ratepayers of Nova Scotia achieve lower electricity bills. So on those projects, we are lending to help with affordability issues. And as Mr. Corey explained, this is done at a market rate, given the type of risk that we are dealing with on this particular project. So in addition to providing clean, reliable electricity for the Nova Scotia grid, we're also helping create jobs and also creating opportunities for Indigenous communities to enable ownership of these critical assets in Nova Scotia. So on many of the projects we have invested, the WMA, who represent 13 Indigenous communities in the province, are owners. So that is on many renewable projects, on the intertie with New Brunswick, as well as on the battery projects in the province.
Thank you very much. And one more follow-up. It's very clear to me and my constituents that this project has a very strong investment, both economically and environmentally. I was wondering if you could speak to what made the Mersey River Wind Project such a strong investment for the Canadian Infrastructure Bank, and what results can Canadians expect to see? Thank you.
Thank you again, member, for the question, and Mr. Chair. So what makes this a very important investment for us and a strong investment across the country is that it provides choice to consumers. So first and foremost, if a retail customer in Nova Scotia wants to buy direct from a generator of electricity, this paves the way in order to do that. And it provides that consumer with a clean source of electricity to power their home or business or municipality. So we're very interested in that. As the members know, many of the electricity grids across this country are managed by Crown-owned utilities. So providing choice and providing independent ownership and private ownership of assets like generation assets, like battery storage projects, are important to the Canada Infrastructure Bank because it brings in private money where in the past public money has been used to build these assets.
Thank
and
you.
It provides choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Fancy. Prochainement, nous avons Mr. Barcelou-Duval.
Next, we have Mr. Barcelou-Duval. You have 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to welcome our witnesses. We're here today because we have learned that there is a loan of $206 million that was granted by the CIB to Liberal insiders, starting with the president of the company, Mr. Sanson, who is the former minister of Nova Scotia and a member of the Liberal Party there. And he has been minister since 2025 and is also the brother of Daryl Sanson, a former Liberal member of Parliament from Preston Chesapeake, and also another administrator, Mr. Sanson, the brother of Daryl Sanson. He's also involved in the same company, Mr. Bellisson, the brother of Scott Bryson, a former Liberal member from Kinshan, who was elected for the Liberal Party 7 times, and a former minister under the Trudeau and Martin cabinets. There's also the brother-in-law from David Lingual, who works for this company as well, who is also, Mr. Dingwall, is a former Liberal Party member as well. So my question is, we've noted that all of these people are involved in the Liberal Party and they have received a $206 million loan. And that's not it, because they also may benefit from millions in the renewable energy funding and $6 million potentially from the Natural Resources Canada Electrification Program. We're talking about $350 million, roughly $304 million in taxpayer funds for Liberal insiders. And the last time we had you here, Mr. Corey, it's because you granted a loan at a very advantageous rate to build a boat in China, and it didn't make sense. We're talking about Buy Canada, and that's the Liberal slogan, but you should be applying that policy. And now I get the impression that you've confused Buy Canada with Buy Liberal. Am I mistaken?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. I guess I would really... I will, in a moment, je vais tourner la parole à Monsieur Duguay qui va continuer.
I will give the floor in a moment to my colleague who will continue.
He does operate as an arm's length Crown corporation, Mr. Chair, and all investment decisions that we make are made on the merits of the project, the merits of the counterparty who make the proposal, and we do our due diligence, as Mr. Duguay was describing, around conflict of interest check, which I can confirm there was no conflict of interest for anyone at the CIB with any of the participants at any of the counterparties. We had no conflict of interest. And when we conduct our Know Your Client review and we look for high-risk borrowers, we look at things like public service. Have people been in public service?
Je comprends. Monsieur Corey, vous me dites que vous opérez...
Mr. Corey, you're saying that you operate at arm's length from the government. There's conflict of interest policies, but I looked at your lobbyist register, and I've learned that this project was subject of intensive lobbying from Rosewell Development because there was a meeting with 4 Liberal members, and these Liberals were Jessica Fancy Laundry, Lena Medledge-Diab, Mr. Blois, and Shannon and Mike Calloway. 2 of these members are sitting around the table today to defend this project. I'm not sure if this is a coincidence. And then there was the members of the Minister of Natural Resources office who met with members of this company. And in 2026, there was the Director of Operations from the Canada Atlantic Organization who met with the Minister of Justice and who also met with the lobbyist from Rosewell Development. And then later, 2 days before the announcement of the loan, they met with the PMO. The PMO met with lobbyists from Rosewell Development. So you said there was no political influence, but all of these meetings which took place, well, are they a coincidence? There is no involvement there?
Mr. Chair, I can confirm none of those meetings involved the CIB or have anything to do with us. We provided a loan based on the merits of the project, a project we're really proud of. And I can't speak to what meetings happen. I can speak very much to our process and the way we do our work, which is completely nonpartisan and, of course, follows best practices as outlined for all financial institutions by.
Ce que je vous dis, Monsieur Curry, c'est que ce projet-là a fait.
Mr. Kerry, what I'm saying is that this project was the subject of intensive lobbying from this company with Liberal members and with the government. And by coincidence, it seems, they've obtained the funding. And you're saying there's no link between the lobbying that was done and these Liberal insiders that did all this work? Do you not find that somewhat strange, hard to follow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can only confirm our work was purely based on the merits of the loan and the merits of the project and the investment memo that we developed and the investment thesis we developed, and that's how we work. We have to remember that as a Crown Corporation, we truly do work at arm's length. I don't have conversations with any of the individuals that the member has asked about, so this has no impact on the way we do our work or our investments.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Corey. Merci, Mr. Barcelou-Duval. Next,
Thank you,
we'll
Mr. Barcelou-Duval.
It's yours. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Corey, now you say that you lend and it's based on the merits of the loan. So the merits of the loan obviously has to look at who you're lending to. So when did you or the CIB learn that the $206 million loan was given to a company having connections with the Liberal Party?
I'll ask Mr. Duguay to just talk through the timeline.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a general process that we follow for all investments, we would conduct KYC due diligence activities during the investment's due diligence phase. So prior to an investment reaching a financial close milestone. And we also do continuous monitoring in terms of counterparties as part of general asset management.
Asking about the process. I'm asking
changes.
When did you learn? And he said that you were going to speak to the timeline. So I'd like to hear the timeline as to when you learned about the connections between the Liberal Party.
As part of the process, we conducted KYC due diligence activities on all of the individuals prior to the CIB reaching financial close on the loan. As we review in KYC, that would include situations where principals previously held public office. What's important to note is FINTRAC guidance talks about the act of holding public office. It doesn't import a political definition in terms of what that act is. So in some cases, if we have a counterparty that is identified as having held previous public office, we would review when that was. And in most cases, FINTRAC provides guidelines where you usually do a look-back period of 5 years. And in several of the cases with respect to these individuals, the public office that was held was more than the 5-year look-back guidelines. And that's a factor that we assess as part of a risk assessment and determining whether there's enhanced diligence or counterparties reviews that need to be done on counterparties.
There's no definition.
So essentially, you knew before that this loan was going to be given to liberal connected insiders before you granted the loan. Does CIB have any safeguards that were applied in this case to make sure that there was political independence and that there is political independence in your loan?
As Mr. Corey said, we operate truly at arm's length from government, and we make decisions based on the merits of the project meeting our legislated mandate, and we size our loan to the gap that is preventing that project to proceed. When we do counterparty review, in some cases, we will review counterparties and it will be noted that a particular individual may have previously served in public office. That is not by itself an indicator of a higher risk. And
this raised with the minister? Was this issue raised with the minister? You knew that there were liberal insiders. Did you speak to the minister about this issue?
I will let Mr. Corey answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Mr. Chair, two comments. One, no conversations with any minister of the Crown about this project at any stage. For us, the only time there was a discussion is when we were planning a public announcement of said investment, when we informed MPs, MLAs of all parties, of all levels of government, so that we could do a public announcement of the deal. Second thing, I just want to
So you informed the Liberal Party, Liberal MPs and the minister that this deal, this $206 million deal, was going to people who were previously connected to the Liberal Party, even former MPs affiliated with this deal.
Mr. Chair, yeah, that was where my second part of my answer was about to go. I'd like to be super clear. Our loan is to a company that is reputable, well-governed, and as far as we're concerned, based on our diligence review, meets all of our Know Your Client requirements. It's not a loan to individuals, first of all.
My question is, did you advise the minister and MPs that there were Liberal insiders connected to this company when you decided that you were going to go public with this? Did you advise them?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. To be very clear, the only conversation with anyone in government was literally, as I was trying to describe, when we were holding an announcement a few weeks ago in public to announce the project moving ahead, at which time we informed members, local MPs provincially and federal members, that we were planning an announcement and they would be welcome to attend.
The answer is yes.
No further discussion. The answer is no further discussion other than there was a public announcement coming.
And thank you, Dr. Lewis. Next, we'll turn the floor over to Mr. Kellaway. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the witnesses being here. We'll start with you, Mr. Corey. Did this project receive any special treatment? Yes or no?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, unequivocally.
Was it a sweetheart deal?
Again, Mr. Chair, unequivocally, no, it was not.
Do you know the directors of Roswell?
Mr. Chair, thank you. No, I do not. I do not. Apparently, I have once been at an industry roundtable with one of or two of them where we talked about energy in Nova Scotia, along with 40 or 50 others. It's the only time I think I've ever been in the same room, never met them.
So if you could, and we'll stay with you, Mr. Corey, describe the process in terms of when you're making an investment. Clearly, you have taxpayer dollars. This is important. We're here to discuss that. Can you walk through the process by which you made this approval? You know, I'm from Nova Scotia. I was clearly articulated by a member across the way. This is an important project, one that MP Fancy spoke very eloquently about and impactful of Nova Scotia. It is one that's going to bring jobs and help the ratepayer, which we desperately need in Nova Scotia. We have ingenuity in Nova Scotia. We have skill in Nova Scotia. We have people who want to invest in Nova Scotia. So on the merits of this project, sir, can you talk about the process by which you approved it? Because we're proud in Nova Scotia of all the stakeholders, including the Premier of Nova Scotia, who endorses this project. Can you speak to that, sir?
Well, Mr. Chair, I appreciate the question. It's exactly where I was going to start, because really, and Mr. Gunaratne spoke to this a little bit, this project really started with a strategic conversation we have been having with the province of Nova Scotia, with the Premier and his government, the Deputy Minister of Energy in the province, around the transformation of the electricity grid in Nova Scotia needs to happen. And that has a number of tentacles to it. The battery storage project is one. Wide build-out of wind is another, new transmission, the potential for offshore wind. There's a pretty ambitious plan afoot in Nova Scotia, and so we've been working at a strategic level with the province around all of those investments and what they're going to take. That's step one. From there, the next step was the actual equity provider, which is Slate Asset Management, a company, I think, based here in Toronto, reached out to us, said they were planning an investment and wanted to talk to us about the project itself. Our team, led by Mr. Gunaratne, met with them, received financial models from them, explaining the project, explaining the renewables to retail program, this concept of consumer choice, the risk that comes with that, which is quite unique because it's not like most power projects that are owned by utilities. You build them and they go into the rate base and they get paid for. This project, they've got to go out and sell power to individual consumers, sign them up to buy clean power, sign up companies who want to have clean power, hospitals who want to have clean power, individual consumers. So that was the challenge that the project faced. Our investment team, led by Sachin, did a review of that and came up with terms of a loan that would address that problem. Those terms are not a low interest loan. As I said in my opening remarks and in questions earlier, that's a competitive interest rate. But what it is it's designed to help manage the risk. So if they have a slower time signing up customers, imagine, then our repayment might take a little longer. And that's the kind of flexibility that taxpayer money, that's why the CIB exists. We help them share in the risk of ramp up and of signing up customers so that this new program can exist, so that a new wind farm can get built. That's the basis of our investment. That's what we took to our investment committee at the CIB and eventually then to our board, which is a set of 10 private and completely independent individuals. We presented the merits of that investment and we made it on that basis. That is how investments, this one and all others, work at the CIB. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, how much time do I have left? You have 1 minute, sir. Okay. I'll take it. Yeah, Mr. Albus wants my question. I'll say this, and this is just more of a statement than anything. I think it's important for this committee to clearly evaluate and assess why investments are made. But something's very disturbing about this one. And I think, and now in all seriousness, you can laugh over there, but there's this trope that nothing can happen in Atlantic Canada unless you know someone. And it really bothers me. And it bothers me that you've decided to do this. Now, on the merits, you can do whatever you want. And Mr. Albus can squint and pretend he's a professor of high order. I take this seriously. You can evaluate and you can certainly determine if something was offside here, but this is a major project that's on its merits, makes sense. And it's beginning to look like a Facebook post where the trolls come out, make their posts and say, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but. I think if any Canadian, in particular, and anti-Canadians watching this today know exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kellaway. Prochainement, nous avons Monsieur Barcelou Duval. 2 minutes et demie.
Next, we have 2.5 minutes with Mr. Barcelou Duval. Thank you, Chair. I would like ask more about something I said earlier when I said that several Liberal members who participated in the meeting of June 17th are at the table today. I said there were 2. In fact, there are 3 members who were present at that lobbyist meeting. Also, Ms. Shannon was present at that meeting, who is around the table today to defend this project. The question I would have for Mr. Corey is, Mr. Corey, you know that several years ago we had a report from the National Transport Committee saying that we should abolish the Canada Infrastructure Bank. The NDP, the Liberals, everyone was in agreement. This was a somewhat partisan bank that was established. We agreed, and we're giving money to friends of the Liberal Party. And when we see this type of thing happening, this shows everyone's fears and how they're lived out. And can you understand the lack of trust people have in your institution with your famous impartiality?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess two comments. Firstly, we're very proud of the progress we've made at the bank in getting infrastructure built in this country, across this country, working with governments at all levels, regardless of political stripe. I think Canadians would look at the CIB, Mr. Chair, and realize we have projects in Alberta and in British Columbia and in Nunavut and in Nova Scotia. We work with governments of every stripe. We work with individuals of every stripe. We work with business owners across the country, and many business owners bring us ideas, and we work with them to get infrastructure projects built. We conduct rigorous review around conflict of interest. There were none in this. So I, Mr. Chair, dispute this notion that there's no preferential treatment in this loan. We made a loan to people who had a really positive business idea that's providing choice. It's backed by the Nova Scotia government. It's backed by other parts of the federal government, and it's a really strong contributor to the overall grid.
Vous comprendrez, M. Corey, que quand vous me dites que le projet...
Mr. Corey, you'll understand that when you say that this is a government-supported project, then the Liberals are lining up to defend this project today as it benefits Liberal insiders. I find that concerning. And it seems to reassure you, though. I'd just like to understand why. Thank you, Mr. Barcelou-Duval.
Next, we'll go to Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Lawrence, 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. It's actually just shocking, your shamelessness at points. Okay, so the company that got $200 million from your bank, the president, the chairman of the board, and 2 of the directors were, by FinTrack definition, politically exposed persons. They were all relatives of former or current Liberal members of Parliament. Did you know this before you gave the loan? You're on mute, Mr. Corey.
Sorry, Mr. Corey, you were on mute there, unless somebody else.
Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I was doing so well. Apologies. I'm going to let Mr. Duguay answer that question.
Yeah, I think.
So, Mr. Chair, I would like Mr. Corey. He gets paid over $1 million by taxpayers, so he can answer our questions.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to start, and Mr. Duguay is just better positioned than I, but I will say that no, I believe the premise of the question, Mr. Duguay, by the way, is our organization's Know Your Client and Anti-Money Laundering, what's called the CAMLO expert, so I will be turning to him, but I will just say no, the premise of the question is not correct. There was no identification of
Mr. Corey, you didn't do your due diligence, is what you're saying. You did not know that the president, the chair, were all politically exposed persons related to current or previous Liberal MPs. And you're telling me that there's no conflict of interest. So you'll have no problem sharing your agenda for the last 2 years and telling me that you haven't spoken to Scott Bryson, Daryl Sampson, David Dingwall within the last 2 years.
Mr. Chair, at the will of the committee, I'm happy to share documents as required. I can confirm I've spoken to none of the individuals that the member asked about. And I can more importantly confirm that based on our standards of diligence that we conduct around knowing your client, which is looking around individuals and their political involvement, to be clear, none of the individuals mentioned met our threshold.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. Well, your thresholds aren't working. You are here more frequently than some of our members. It's because conflict of interest after conflict of interest. If you don't see a conflict of interest of the president, the chairman of the board, and 2 board members being family members of former Liberal MPs, then your policy has failed, and quite frankly, your moral judgment has failed, sir. Could you please give us immediately the repayment terms of this loan?
Mr. Chair, again, commercial terms, I probably won't go into deals with Mr. Generatna can speak to the term.
No, thank you. I will ask my question, Mr. Corey. You get paid over $1 million. You can answer some questions, sir. Please, sorry, there is no commercial there. No, there is no, sir. This is my time.
Point of order, please, Chair.
We don't even need a point of order here, colleagues. I just want to say I'm going to stop the time here to respect your time, Mr. Lawrence, as always. I just want to ask colleagues to please allow for the members to respond, not talk over each other for the benefit of our interpreters, just for health reasons. So we'll give another 10 seconds onto that. So you have 2 minutes and 2 seconds, please, Mr. Lawrence, to restate your question.
Thank you. There is no commercial disadvantage to you publishing the repayment terms. None, zero, zip. That's an excuse, sir. Will you commit to publishing the repayment terms within the next 24 hours?
Mr. Chair, I don't know the repayment. The question was around the repayment term. I don't know off the top of my head what the term of loan is. We have over 100 loans, so I don't know the term. Certainly, if the committee wants an answer, I can deem to provide one.
Yes, please provide that within the next 24 hours, and I understand we have your commitment to do so.
Mr. Chair, as always, as the committee requests, please send through anything, and we'll endeavor to answer as quickly as we can.
I'd like a firm answer from this, Mr. Corey. You will provide repayment terms to this committee within 24 hours. Yes or no?
Always at the will of the committee, Mr. Chair.
Like, your shamelessness is just beyond. Like, it's unbelievable how you can't just answer a simple question. Okay, so I believe we have a commitment for you to provide the committee within 24 hours of the repayment terms, and I appreciate that. I thank you for that. This could be a lot less painless if you'd just given us to the committee at the beginning. I will return back to the conflict of interest there, and if Mr. Corey does wish to rely on Mr. Duguay, I'm okay with that. But I want to establish whether you just didn't find out that there were Liberal family members as president, chair of board, and 2 board of directors, or whether you knew about it and just decided, well, that's okay.
As I said, Mr. Chair, in response to earlier questions, when you follow FinTrack guidance, the relationship that you look at is past political office or a member that is currently with respect to holding political office. It's not related to any political parties. As the fact said in the press release that was issued by the Conservative Party, in some cases, some of the members previously held public office. And FinTrack guidance that is applied across all financial institutions provides a 5-year look back. And in several cases, these members held public office for more than 5 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duguay, and thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. Next, we'll turn the floor over to Ms. Miedema. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having me here at Transport Committee. Really nice to see you again, Mr. Corey and team. I am the Member of Parliament for Halifax, proud Nova Scotian, really excited about this project, and now the Housing Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development Chair as of yesterday. The word shamelessness has been thrown around at this committee meeting, and I would like to just first apologize for the disrespect that's been paid to you here today. I find it quite shameful, and I'm not sure, well, it's 100% unwarranted. You've been nothing but professional.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
And the Canada Infrastructure Bank has done amazing work across this country.
Point of order. You can't disparage
Ms.
members
Miedema,
around the table. And to call me shameful,
Mr.
that
Lawrence,
is
give me
not
1 second. I
appropriate.
do want to give you the floor. I just want to stop the time. So you have 4 minutes, 15 seconds left. Mr. Lawrence, your point of order, sir.
It is inappropriate for another member to call a member, an honorable member, shameful. And I expect a full apology.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. I'm just going to advise all members to be selective when using words to describe other honorable members in this room. Let's try and keep this as cordial as possible. And with that, I'll turn the floor back over to you. You have 4 minutes, 15 seconds, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was describing behavior and the lack of respect given, not an actual person. So I will continue. I used to be the Director of Environment and Climate Change for the City of Halifax. I worked there for 15 years and worked with the Canada Infrastructure Bank for much of that. And this project has been a long time in the making. I know Mr. Roscoe. I know of the project to the point where actually the City of Halifax is one of the participants in the Mersey River Wind Project, where the city will be getting 75% of its energy from this project to help us achieve locally our climate goals, save money. It's a win-win-win. So really happy about that. Really happy about the other energy projects that the Canada Infrastructure Bank has done in giving shareholder interest to First Nations and Indigenous communities. I think the CIB is a shining example of how we can work together as a country and across parties on climate action and renewable energy and energy security and resilience, which we need to do. Climate cannot be a partisan issue. So the Mersey River Wind Project is the first renewable to retail license in Nova Scotia, the first and only, which lets customers buy renewable electricity directly from developers. And it was introduced under the former provincial Liberal government as a tool to introduce competition into the electricity market. What are the benefits of a diversified electricity grid, particularly one that is increasingly grounded in renewable sources? Mr. Corey, please.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. Yeah, I think this is one of the challenges that a number of provinces, but certainly Nova Scotia, is facing as it tries to both grow its energy sector and meet the increasing demand for people to use electricity for transportation purposes and for heating, but also transitioning off of a fossil-reliant grid. And the problems are, I guess, threefold. The most basic one is around affordability and the increase in costs as you make all of these investments. The second is around reliability, because renewable sources, while they're incredibly important, are not as stable. So that means you need to invest in things like battery storage to balance and transmission to balance the grid. And the third is you've got to keep creating competition and choice, because we're trying to build a sector across the country. And I think that's why our investments in Nova Scotia in general, and in particular the Mersey River project, are one that we're really proud of as a project, because it delivers on all three of those things.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. Can you talk a little bit about the gap that the Canada Infrastructure Bank is filling in allowing these important, innovative, nation-building projects to move forward from a finance perspective?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, in general, to generalize, there are two basic gaps that we're filling. One is an affordability gap. One is a risk gap. So affordability gap, what I mean is building new infrastructure is expensive, and to the extent we can help smooth that cost across the longer term, it helps not create huge spikes. And given our challenges as a country in meeting basic affordability, if we can do that as the bank, we can act as a shock absorber as we make some of these generational investments. So that's one, we call that affordability. The risk one is for lots of infrastructure projects, they have this build it and they will come problem. You are going to make an investment up front and you don't know for sure what the payout of them will be. And this would be Mercy would be an example of this. You're going to build a wind farm, but you got to go out and sell the capacity. And that might take 6 months or a year or 2 years. And the ramp up of that is uncertain. That's true when we build new ports in this country or transportation systems, and it's certainly true in Mersey. So we call that a risk gap. Every investment the CIB makes is filling one of those two gaps or both of them, in some mix. And that's certainly the case here. And if you look across all of our investments in Nova Scotia in the electricity grid, those are the two things we're doing. That's why we're there.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate all of your great work. Can we expect any announcements of more projects in the near future that are clean energy focused in Canada?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. No scoops for today, but I will just say that we are really active across Atlantic Canada, certainly in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, NPEI, and in the north, and in parts of Western Canada in trying to make the energy transition that we need to, building our grid out for the future.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Corey. We have 8 minutes left, so we'll go with Mr. Lawrence for 4 minutes, followed by Ms. Fancy for 4 minutes. Mr. Lawrence, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, and I want to pick up where I left off there, Mr. Duguay. So you were unaware or that the president, the chairman of the board, and two directors were connected Liberal insiders?
We conducted standard due diligence, as we do for all projects. As part of that due diligence, when you look at a counterparty, in some cases, it will identify that person previously held public office.
Mr. Duguay, yes or no? Were you aware that the president, the chairman of the board, and two directors were connected Liberal insiders?
It's a fact that the individuals previously held public office. FINTRAC guidance doesn't necessarily import what are political connections. The test is reviewing
but did you know prior to giving the loans that the president, the chairman of the board, and the two directors were related to former or current members of parliament?
We reviewed the individuals.
No, Mr. Duguay, no, I'm going to stop you there. We are a parliament. I am representing 100,000 people. We're representing the 40 million. I've asked you a simple question, yes or no. Did you know that the president, chairman of the board, and two directors were relatives of former and current Liberal MPs?
What I will say is we completed our standard due diligence process.
Mr. Duguay, that's not good enough. Mr. Chair, this is
point of order, Mr. Chair.
I have asked a straightforward question. He's not given an answer.
Colleagues, I'm going to stop your time there, Mr. Lawrence. You have 2 minutes, 43 seconds left. I'm just going to ask once again that we do not talk over each other. We're not always satisfied or happy with responses provided by witnesses, but we try and make sure that we don't talk over each other. You can continue to ask the questions, Mr. Lawrence, but I would kindly ask that everybody not talk over each other for the health of our interpreters. So I'm going to turn the floor back over to you. You have 2 minutes, 43 seconds, sir.
Mr. Duguay, for the fourth time, this is a simple question. Did you know that the president, chairman of the board, and two directors were relatives of either current or former Liberal members of Parliament?
We completed our due diligence checks, Mr. Chair, and as I've said, we did identify through our due diligence that the individuals previously held public office. And as part of our standard due diligence, we completed checks in respect of whether that would impose a higher risk profile. We operate at arm's length from government, and in respect of these individuals,
thank you, Mr.
there was
Duguay.
no high risk profile.
Thank you, Mr. Duguay. So the Canadian Investment Bank was aware that the president and the chairman of the board and the two directors were Liberal insiders. What enhanced due diligence did you do?
So generally, when you do due diligence on counterparties, you would do an open source search. You would essentially review what any material that's publicly available with respect to these individuals. That would include doing a media check, identify whether there's any adverse media with respect to individuals. When you do enhanced due diligence, you'll go generally a bit further. You'll want to identify any situations where there's been either past litigation with respect to any individual or the company, any past regulatory findings, any current court filings. In this case, none of those.
So if there were 5 Liberal members of Parliament that were members of the board of directors, that'd be okay with you?
If there were 5 current members of Parliament, Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to understand the question here.
That
wasn't the case here.
Current or previous, you'd be okay with that? I'm just trying to see where the line is, because obviously connected Liberal insiders controlling an organization that's getting $200 million is just fine with the CIB. Where is the line here?
Mr. Chair, we adopt and follow guidelines that are provided by FinTrack, that are adopted across.
It has to do with money laundering. It doesn't have to do with conflict of interest, sir.
The principles are the same.
Is that the only standard you have to adopt? You don't have to do anything better than the bare minimum? You're giving out millions of dollars?
Please, Mr. Dzuguay. 10-second response, please.
That's pathetic.
Mr. Chair, we follow our guidelines in respect of best practices across the financial sector. We do that voluntarily, and I would invite all members to go on our website and read our integrity due diligence policy.
Thank you very much,
Mr.
Dzuguay, and thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. And finally, for this panel, I'll turn the floor over to once again Ms. Fancy. The floor is yours. 4 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, and through you, Chair, let's talk about affordability gaps, because I know that word, if you ran it through whatever chat GPT that the Conservatives have going on over there, that affordability is one of those words that they keep talking about. So for this, within my riding, this is an affordability gap. We have people living in energy poverty in my constituency, in my province, and this is our way out. So just this morning, too, because of what we have with Nova Scotia Power and Emera, just this morning they released an 8.1% rate increase. So every year, based on this 1992 agreement and monopoly that we have, every year this company can increase its power rates. This morning, 8 a.m., that rate increased again for Nova Scotians at 8.1%. At the basis of this whole project, they had to have a certain number of people, based on the criteria we're talking about today, they had to have a certain number of people signed up. They needed 35,000. They've gotten 50,000. And I've got constituents calling all the time saying, oh my gosh, we have competition. Can I sign up? Can I sign up? Can I sign up? So I'm feeling right now what the Conservatives are doing is they're creating affordability gaps for Nova Scotians. Our Conservative Premier has been boasting about this time and time again throughout this whole project. So my question for you, Mr. Corey, is what differentiated? Let's talk about differentiation here in projects. What differentiated the Mersey River Wind project from other potential investments when it came to delivering value for Canadians? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question. Really appreciate it. For us, the differentiator is this creation of choice and competition in the market, and creating it in an innovative way, which does not exist in many markets, which is to allow direct-to-consumer. Consumers can buy power directly from a renewable source. So for those, as I mentioned earlier, there's people in what they often call the MUSH sectors, or municipal hospitals and universities, who want to be able to buy clean power. There are industries who it's part of their competitive play to actually be able to get clean power. And there are consumers who want to be able to get clean power. So that option and choice does two things. It allows them to make choices about getting clean power, and it drives down prices over time. So that's what differentiates this project, and it's part of why we're proud of it.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Corey. And myself, I'm the Vice Chair for our National Rural Caucus. So let's talk about rural ridings for a second here. With a project of this scale in a rural region, how does the Canada Infrastructure Bank ensure that local businesses and communities are meaningfully included in the economic opportunity that it creates? Because it also sounds like now Conservatives are trying to make it so that rural economic development is not allowed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the good news about infrastructure projects, and this speaks to a comment that was made earlier, infrastructure projects happen in physical places across our country, big cities, small towns, rural and remote communities. And most of the economic value accrues in those places. So as we heard earlier in this session, the jobs that will be created in the local community, both in construction and operation of this plant, are significant. And they're part of what infrastructure does for our country is they help build local economies. We're really proud of that. On every investment, we measure that across all of our investments. We estimate that the total job creation, just to give you a sense of the scale of this, of the 108 projects we're investing in, create over 300,000 jobs in total across Canada. And as I said, that's in communities big and small. It's in First Nations and Inuit and Métis communities. It's in large cities. It's in small towns. It's in Northern Ontario, where I'm from, or Nova Scotia, where you're from.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fancy. And I would like to thank, on behalf of all members of this committee, the witnesses for their appearance before us today and answering the questions of the members. Colleagues, I am going to suspend for a couple of minutes to allow for our clerk to transition over the second round of witnesses. The meeting is suspended to the call of the chair. Order. Colleagues, appearing before us for the second half of today's meeting, we have from the Halifax Port Authority, Fulvio Fracassi, President and Chief Executive Officer, joining us by video conference. Welcome to you, sir. We have from the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation, Mr. Luc Boisclair, Vice President, Engineering and Technology. Welcome to you. Bienvenue. And colleagues, we hope to have online very soon Mr. Atul Sharma, Senior Director of Government and Stakeholder Relations, by video conference, but we are having some difficulties connecting him. We'll turn the floor over to Mr. Fracassi for opening remarks. Mr. Fracassi, the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share how the Port of Halifax supports the Atlantic Trade Corridor and contributes to Canada's trade diversification efforts. The Port of Halifax generates $4.8 billion in annual economic output, including $3 billion directly, and supports over 25,000 jobs. We are a deep water, big ship port receiving the largest container ships calling any Canadian port. Halifax is serviced by a diverse range of container shipping lines, including major global carriers such as MSC, CMA, CGM, and O&E, to name a few. We have a total of 17 container services connecting Canada to more than 150 countries globally. Our deep waters and big ship infrastructure make us the only Canadian port that can receive the ultra size of ships of over 12,000 TEUs. These mega ships represent almost 40% of the world container fleet and are expected to reach 50% by 2030. In terms of our overall volumes of about 500,000 TEUs in 2025, the percentage of our trade with Asia grew by about 4% last year, representing approximately 45% of our overall volumes. Our growth countries in the region were India and China. Trade with Europe and the UK also remains strong, representing about 36% of overall volumes for the port, with noticeable increases with Italy, France, and Portugal. Our global connectivity, our ultra-size ship capacity, and strategic position along the Great Circle route as the closest full-service port to Europe and Southeast Asia through the Suez Canal uniquely positions the Port of Halifax to contribute to Canada's trade diversification objectives. We are also supported by distinguished partners, including PSA, the world's largest terminal operator, and TIL, which holds a 49% investment stake in PSA Halifax, and which is a division of MSC, the leading container company globally. In addition, Our partnership with CN Rail plays a crucial role in accessing major inland markets within 1 to 3 days. These strategic partnerships, major public and private investments at the port, and close collaboration, we have worked to maintain and grow our service offerings, including a new direct service with India, the only direct service to Canada. We continue to leverage our deep water and big ship infrastructure to competitive advantage. This includes discussions with carriers to potentially receive ships in Halifax of 18,000 TEUs and 400 meters in length by 2028. Continuing to invest in Canadian ports is key to achieving our trade diversification objectives. HPA strongly supports the Trade Diversification Corridors Fund and welcomes the federal government's efforts to create more resilient and competitive supply chains. As Eastern Canada's only port that can receive ultra-sized ships, it is essential that we increase our capacity to berth 2 ultra-large vessels simultaneously. Our expansion project for the South End Container Terminal will achieve this objective while also increasing our terminal capacity to 1.3 million TEUs. And this project is scalable to 2 million TEUs when required. Work has already commenced. This project leverages Halifax's strengths with an already existing ecosystem and supports other port initiatives undertaken in Eastern Canada. This also avoids a scenario whereby ultra-sized vessels are forced to bypass Canada to call at U.S. East Coast ports for lack of capacity. It is important that we enhance the Atlantic Trade Corridor in a way that complements the Central Trade Corridor by adding capacity, resilience, and fluidity to the entire network, supporting importers and exporters across Eastern and Atlantic Canada. As we continue to build out our world-class infrastructure and existing ecosystem, collaboration will be key to developing a national port network that delivers improved supply chain resilience, lower congestion pressures, and more dependable end-to-end service in a cost-effective manner. It is through a Team Canada approach, leaning on each other's strengths, that we will be successful in expanding trade and driving economic development for the benefit of the entire country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fracassi. Next, prochainement, nous avons Monsieur Boisclair.
Next, we have Mr. Boisclair. The floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Corporation de gestion de la voie maritime du
The
Saint-Laurent.
St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation is a not-for-profit organization that operates and maintains the Canadian infrastructure of the Seaway. The Seaway is a network of locks and canals connecting Montreal to Lake Erie under a long-term agreement with the Government of Canada. This network includes 13 Canadian locks located in Quebec and Ontario and 2 U.S. locks located in New York State.
It is part of the larger Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway system that includes ports. Altogether, the system generates $66 billion in economic activity by moving 252 million tons of cargo worth $157 billion. It supports more than 350,000 jobs and creates $23.2 billion in wages. At the wharfs of the St. Lawrence Seaway along the Welland Canal and in Sainte-Catherine, Quebec, ships load and unload cargo, supplies and fuel and undergo crew and pilot changes. Our multi-user wharf in Sainte-Catherine is fully leased and supports the berthing of 4 vessels. Of the more than 13 wharfs along the Welland Canal, the majority are leased and in service. We have recently completed dredging at Wharf 10 in the city of Welland and have dredged and rehabilitated Wharf 7 near the multimodal connection in the city of Thorold. We are moving ahead with private partners, and commodities will soon be moving at both locations. Wharf 18, located at Port Colborne, is a shovel-ready, multimodal infrastructure project. It will add 1 million tons of cargo handling capacity and open new cruise ship berthing to boost regional tourism. The project received $22.6 million from the National Trade Corridor Fund, but requires additional funding to begin construction. We are advocating for complementary support from the Province of Ontario along with contributions from private partner and operators. In 2025, 37 million tons of goods passed through our locks and canals to domestic and international markets. Key commodities include grain, fertilizers, iron ore, steel, aluminum, cement, project cargo, road salt, and liquid bulk, including petroleum products. La voie maritime du Saint-Laurent a la capacité
The St. Lawrence Seaway has the capacity to immediately double its cargo volume. Transporting more goods by water can help relieve congestion on busy routes and rail networks. A Seaway Max vessel can carry the equivalent of 300 rail cars or nearly 1,000 trucks.
We propose a project called the Inland Advantage. There is a clear opportunity to scale the impact of the Seaway and expand the strategic value of the infrastructure already in place. What we offer is divided in three parts. First, reintroduce containerized short sea shipping between Halifax, Montreal, and the Great Lakes via the Seaway. Second, move energy via the Seaway to domestic and international markets to strengthen Canada's global competitiveness and support climate-aligned infrastructure by diversifying export routes. And third, make the Seaway into an even more resilient marine corridor for winter operation. We welcome the new Trade Diversification Corridor Fund and its approach. The recent closure of the navigation season last January reminded us that investments are essential not only to extend the navigation season, but also to ensure reliable operation in the months of December and in March-April. The Seaway is one of the original nation-building projects. We have a deep history and a future filled with possibilities. By maximizing active wharf capacity on the Seaway, increasing resiliency to extend the navigation season, and expanding container and energy movements, the St. Lawrence Seaway will help to diversify and modernize Quebec and Canada's broader coastal and inland port network. As the Federal Minister of Transportation mentioned earlier this week at the official opening of our 68th navigation season, a modern, dependable seaway strengthens Canada's position as a reliable trading nation. Thank you.
Merci à vous, Mr. Boisclair.
Thank you,
We'll
Mr. Boisclair.
Second round with Mr. Davies. Mr. Davies, the floor is yours. You have 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to everybody. And Mr. Boisclair, I recall that you at one point were in charge of the Welland Canal. You were in the St. Catharines Welland area for a while. So it's my home turf. So the Welland Canal goes right through the middle of my riding through Port Colborne, Welland, and Thorold. But I first want to talk about a couple of things, and I want to thank you for the St. Lawrence Seaway for the work it did in Lock 8 this past winter. It really was a sight to see the improvements, including the hands-free mooring technology that was installed. I think it was about $6 million put into Bridge 21, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that just the first phase of the infrastructural renewal at that bridge?
That repair is actually over 2 winters, so there will be a similar work next winter.
Okay, that's great. That's good to know. So I want to dig into Wharf 18 because I'm sure that you expected to get some questions from somebody in my area. Like that wharf first of all, is that wharf considered decommissioned or abandoned?
Call it out of service.
Out of service. So it doesn't count as part, it wouldn't have counted up until recently as part of your infrastructure renewal strategy, would it?
The regular infrastructure repair could or would have repaired it, but we're looking for commercial development as well. So,
okay, so that wharf went out of commission well over 10 years ago, I believe, and I drove by there the other day, and it's collapsing. There's going to be some serious problems with the walls that are. I think some are still made of timber. So if that wall collapses, how does that impact the project to restore or revitalize that as a working wharf?
The project actually reconstruct the whole front face. So again, having a bit more or less collapse will not change the scope of the project.
So it was a couple of years ago that the former Minister of Transport came to Port Colborne and made the announcement of the 22.7 million from the National Trade Corridors Fund. But it was supposed to be, my understanding was it was supposed to be matched by either Transport Canada or the St. Lawrence Seaway. But the St. Lawrence Seaway's position is that it's not going to add the extra money to make that project viable. Is that correct?
The National Trade Corridor Fund application called for half from the NTCF and half from a private partner.
Private partner or the St. Lawrence Seaway?
A private partner, which, like I explained, we're now looking for a private partner or provincial government.
So is that your policy with all wharfs that have to be revitalized?
The one that need, I'm going to say, more minor repair are getting repaired under our regular asset renewal program.
Okay, so look, I just want to be clear on this because it seems to me after several years, this wharf has been out of commission for over a decade. There was a major announcement that with great fanfare, my understanding is that private sector opportunities have come through and they've done their due diligence and they've determined that it's not viable without the federal government actually taking a larger chunk of that investment. The president of St. Lawrence Seaway told me about 6 months ago that it's in the interest of the St. Lawrence Seaway to have all of their assets operating at maximum capacity. But this one is at the mouth of the Welland Canal. It has a major economic advantage to Port Colborne. The industrial expansion, the economic development opportunities from tourism, the industrial strategies, short sea shipping, containers, that's all in the mix. But the bottom line is you can't make enough money with fees on that dock to justify the investment. Is that a fair assessment?
We're not operator of any docks, so again, we collect wharfage,
yeah,
and we collect tolls on the ship cargo, but because we're not operating, we're not party to one part of the revenue stream.
How long is that the 22.7 million from the National Trade Corridor? Where is that money now?
It's still with the government.
So, but is there a sunset in this? Does that fund have to be used under a certain period of time? Is that money been built into your capital projects schedule?
No.
So you have no plans to do any work at Wharf 18 in the near future?
No. The current efforts are at other wharfs. Just to point out, 17 in front of 18 is getting some work. Like I said, 7 and 10 got some significant repair done.
So Wharf 10, that was all done under your maintenance schedules?
Correct.
And so you paid for all of that?
Correct.
Look, my understanding is that you have to have the policy of the St. Lawrence Seaway is to have the same number of wharves available for the number of ships that pass through the canal. That's the minimum standard. Is that correct?
That is correct, because in case of the shutdown of navigation, we need safe place to berth all the vessels.
So Wharf 18 would actually add capacity, but my understanding is you're just actually operating at about 40% capacity now. So it really, in your view, what is the likelihood of Wharf 18 being recommissioned in the next 5 years?
I cannot answer that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davies, and merci beaucoup à vous, Monsieur Boisclair. Next, we'll go to Ms. Wien. Floor is yours, 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to both witnesses for joining us today to talk about the opportunities for ports and in this time where we're thinking about economic renewal and making sure that we are investing for our future. I wanted to ask both of you about, and I appreciated Mr. Fracassi, your Team Canada approach on these efforts here. If you could talk a little bit about the opportunities you see in terms of opening up new markets and how the Trade Diversification Corridors Funds that has been announced through Budget 2025 will create opportunities for you in terms of growing new markets.
I can go first.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the Thank you for the question. So yes, we're very supportive of the trade corridor diversification fund. It indeed, we believe, opens up opportunities for us. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, one of our key priorities is to invest in infrastructure to provide us a greater capacity to help improve efficiency and fluidity. As I mentioned, in terms of the trends in the container industry, the ships are getting larger and larger. At the Port of Halifax, we've already received and serviced ships of 16,000 TEUs. And so there's a real opportunity to expand our infrastructure to make sure that we can receive and deal with simultaneously two mega ships at the same time. That provides opportunities in terms of competitiveness, in terms of pursuing additional cargo. The Port of Halifax is strategically positioned on the Great Circle route in terms of being the closest port to Europe and one day closer than the rest of the East Coast American ports to Southeast Asia via the Suez Canal. So these kinds of investments that make us more competitive, more efficient, will allow us to better leverage some of the infrastructure and services that we have in place. For example, the Port of Halifax has 17, as I mentioned, services that connect Canada to over 150 countries globally. So the capacity to invest and improve services really does open the door for us to position ourselves to contribute to trade diversification, especially in terms of emerging markets such as India, for example. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsieur Bloquet.
Use my colleague analogy with Team Canada. It is a team sport, so the investments are not only in, like, for example, in our lock and bridges infrastructure. It has to be through multiple actors working as a system. I'll name a few. Again, for container, we need customs clearing, CBSA. For navigation along the seaway, we need ice breaking capabilities for the winter operation. This pilotage service, there's other services that are done to the vessels. Terminals need to have the proper stevedoring and all other services.
Much. As I've been learning more about ports and how they function in this country, I was wondering if you could talk to me about how we're doing in terms of collaboration between different government departments. So on the CBSA side and other and Transport Canada, in terms of the two departments working together and how that's working for both of your companies, organizations.
Say that the operational collaboration is very, very good, but all these actors have some form of limitation. They either cannot do 24/7 around the clock, or they have limited assets. So I'm gonna, again, collaboration, very good, but every of these actors have their own set of limitations. Staffing, some collective agreements that are in place that are not fully supporting what we're trying to do.
Mr. Fracassi?
Yes, thank you. Collaboration is good. I think we can always do better. I think the Team Canada approach I mentioned is, I think, key to success and ensuring that each player within the system, each port has its strengths to bring to the table, and so it's through a coordinated approach whereby it's our belief we'll be able to achieve our trade diversification objectives and drive economic development from a Port of Halifax perspective. We're focused on what we call our big ship strategy. We're the only port in Eastern Canada that can receive those larger ships, so that's where we can make our biggest contribution in terms of having capacity and being able to receive those ships so they do not bypass Canada for U.S. East Coast ports. Other players within the system can bring their strengths to the system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wien, and thank you, Mr. Fracassi. Colleagues, as you see, a vote has been called. The bells are ringing. I would need unanimous consent to continue, and I believe that we have unanimous consent perhaps to go one more round, which would include 6-minute remarks by Mr. Barcelou-Duval, followed by Mr. Davies, followed by Ms. Midma, and then Mr. Barcelou-Duval again for 2.5 minutes. Do I have unanimous consent? Yes. So received. So we'll turn the floor prochainement, nous avons Mr. Barcelou-Duval.
Now, Mr. Barcelou-Duval, the floor is yours for 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank our witnesses who are with us today. During the last meeting, we were able to hear from a group that told us that there is an injustice from the federal government in terms of steel transportation. The federal government decided to subsidize train travel for steel, but for boats, they dropped it. And they're redirecting volumes that could have gone through the seaway, or should have. And they've put this on trains now. And there seem to be numerous advantages of seaways. So in terms of greenhouse gases and the quantity of volumes that can be transported, and it seems to be easier than on trains. And how do you view this decision from the government to fund one mode of transportation over another, because it hampers companies that use our equipment? Unfortunately, I can't comment on that. I don't have great expertise in that area. Do you anticipate there to be an impact on the volumes that will go through the seaway? Our forecasts for the next year are roughly the same, so we don't see any significant change. Did you take account of the subsidies on the forecast that you've made, or is it too recent? It's too recent, probably. And do you not think there'll be an impact from the political decision like this? I'm not aware of any impact. Another question that I have for you. We know that last summer there were many boats that were stuck in the river over the summer, and they reduced the load for some of these boats for the Port of Montreal. And what is your role that you play, and how did you adjust to the seaways? Because you don't want to give the impression that lower water levels are increasingly frequent. Or was climate change involved here? Do you expect capacity to be affected in the future on the St. Lawrence Seaway, or reduced capacity for the Great Lakes? Yes, this is an issue that is significant. There are examples upstream of the seaway, but we also are at risk. There were a few weeks where we saw an impact. We represent the industry at the IJC. It manages water flow from Lake Ontario. That's the seaway operator. It represents the maritime industry at that forum. But on your end, do you have any forecasts or an idea of the future impact that this could have on your port capacity? There is more sustainability. Well, if there are some weeks that will be affected in some years with lower water levels, this could cause restrictions, and this should be increasingly frequent. On the contrary, I feel that in the spring there are higher water levels. I'm not explaining myself very well. I don't know this area very well, perhaps, but how come we have flooding so often and in the spring, and then there seems to be a lack of water at the end of the summer? It seems contradictory. Answer: it seems contradictory, but flooding around Montreal in recent years is also the result of the Ottawa River and other water bodies, not just the St. Lawrence. It's not the only contributor. Is this something? Well, I think you'll say that you expect this to increase flooding impacts as well? Yes. Yes, there was a higher probability of this. Are there any measures that you are taking at the Seaway to mitigate the effect of low water levels or high water levels at some periods of the year? We're working with the industry to change restrictions that change as a result of this. We're also taking measures to help navigate periods when there are issues in water flow. We have tools in our operational toolbox to optimize. Well, do you expect to dig into or dig the Seaway? No, we don't have any plans underway. I'll have another question for you, but I think it'll take more than the time I have left. So I'll allow, Chair, if you will, to have more 40 seconds. I'll add to your next turn. Thank you, Mr. Bresler-Duval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up on a couple of things with respect to Wharf 18. You indicated that it was shovel ready. Does that mean that you have detailed engineering drawings available?
We have a design, yes, we have a design.
So a design, but with the design or the paperwork, or I'm just looking if we could do a P3 somehow. I mean, are the drawings sufficient to perhaps use to attract a private sector partner?
Correct.
So if we could find a partner to offset some of the costs, which I still philosophically think this is a Seaway project and the Seaway should fix its own assets, but how long would it take then for the Seaway to move that through your capital improvement system? Because you'd still have to run the project, correct?
Correct. This is a 2-year-long construction project, so you would add probably 1 year of planning.
So going back to my original question, is this the only wharf in the system now that has been classified as abandoned?
There are others, but the others are not, there's no envisioned plan to, they've been abandoned like decades and decades ago.
This one was abandoned probably 2 decades ago as well. Do you have any plans with those other wharfs, or is 18 sort of your key priority if there were money available?
It's the key priority, correct.
So the funds through, what was it, the National Trade Corridors Fund, that $22.7 million. Now that is another government funding source. So we've got the St. Lawrence Seaway, which is the management organization. We've got Transport Canada, which owns everything. And now we have a fund that is contributing to this project. I'm concerned that we're going to lose access to those funds through the trade corridor, through the National Trade Corridors Fund, if we don't move on 18 soon. Do you agree with that?
Share that concern.
Do you have any information of the timing of whether that money is going to disappear? Not at all. And 18 is not in your capital budget now in any way?
That's correct.
So my understanding is that we have some major, your capital budget, I think this year is just over $100 million for 2026? $130 million, okay. So, and that's all been allocated?
That's all been allocated, starts April 1st.
Thank you. So bridge, you're going to have to deal with a couple of bridges in the next years. And my understanding is that Bridge 5 is going to have to be replaced at some point, and that looks like about $120 million by itself?
That is correct.
And what's the timing of that, do you know?
We expect the Bridge 5 to be replaced no later than 10 years from now.
So do you...
That's a 5-year procurement and erection project.
Okay, so you have to ask the federal government for the money for that, obviously.
Correct.
Okay, so if you were to ask for a bridge, can you ask for a wharf? Okay, look, this is really important for the future of the city of Port Colborne on so many levels because of the land that's attached to it. It's in a key economic development zone. So my last question, Mr. Chair, is about on the east side, the development lands on the east side around Ramey's Bend. You're familiar with that,
Correct.
Do you have any plans to do any work in that area?
There's no plan that we have. There's some land that we lease where there's potential development, but we don't have infrastructure capital expenditure planned around Ramey's Bend.
All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davies. Next, we'll turn the floor over to Ms. Miedema. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Fracassi, it's wonderful to see you, if virtually. Again, thank you so much for being here, to both of our witnesses. I'm really excited to be here at Transport Committee momentarily on this because I'm really excited about the opportunities for the Port of Halifax to really meet the moment we are in right now for Canada. And, you know, our government's established a bold goal of doubling Canada's non-U.S. exports by 2035. For the benefit of colleagues here, Mr. Fracassi, can you explain a little bit more of what the port is and does? You're so much more than just boats in and out, from a food security and transport, grain elevator perspective to cruise ships. Can you just paint a picture for colleagues for a moment, please?
Yes, thank you for the question. Happy to do so. Yes, you're correct. A large portion of the business of the port is containerized cargo, but we're much more than that. Of course, we also provide services at the Richmond terminal, for example, for break bulk as well. We are a premier cruise port. 90% of cruise ships that come to Atlantic Canada stop at the port of Halifax. You mentioned the grain elevator that is there as well, and other. We manage other real estate and assets on behalf of the government, and of course there's a whole ecosystem that operates around the port, whether it's the industrial areas responsible for packing, unpacking cargo, the rail service that gets us to major markets within a day to 3, depending on location. So it gives a little bit of a broader flavor of what the Port of Halifax is and its important impact to the economy, not just only of Halifax, but the province and the country.
Yes, thank you. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the port some years ago endeavored to do a big, Vision 2050, and there were some studies and research done to help inform that strategy. Is there anything you can share as to the social and economic benefits that the port provides to Halifax or Nova Scotia in more detail? Or is there a report you could share with the committee for their reference?
We have our 50-year infrastructure plan that's available that basically scopes out what the future vision for the port is, including some of the items I've already spoken about in terms of expansion to help grow the containerized part of the business. It covers cruise and other aspects of the work that we do. There's also our sustainability plan that is also available, that talks about how we interact and work and contribute to the community in Halifax and beyond for the benefit of the entire city and province and the region. So those are certainly available and speak to the positive and significant impact that the port has on the community. As I mentioned earlier, we had done a study on the economic impact of the port, billions of dollars in terms of contributing to GDP, over 25,000 jobs, just to give a little bit of a flavor of the impact, the positive impact that the port has for the city and the province and region.
Thank you. And what do you need to make your vision a reality, both from the federal government, the provincial government, and perhaps other partners?
I think the key component is one of the key components. There's several, but one is, of course, investment in infrastructure is absolutely key. If we're to drive economic development and position ourselves to contribute to Canada's trade diversification efforts, it takes infrastructure investment to be able to position ourselves to go after new markets. I had mentioned that we currently service some of the largest ships that come to Canadian ports, but we need to extend that capacity, right? We can service one ultra-sized vessel at the same time, but we need to be able to do more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fracassi. Prochainement, et finalement, nous avons M. Barcelou-Duval.
And lastly, we have Mr. Barcelou-Duval, 3 minutes, 10 seconds. Mr. Boisclair, I'd like to speak with you. In my writing, I have the cities of Varennes, Verchères, Contrecoeur, who I know are not under your jurisdiction, unless I'm mistaken, under the St. Lawrence Seaway Maritime. But we're experiencing a major issue, which is waves, rather, that are happening. And the government is ignoring this issue completely. There's no will to help people with this issue, with the wake. And they implemented a shoreline protection program. And there was a committee report on this. And I'd like to know if on your end, in the territory you serve, well, it is study. This territory was covered by the study we conducted, and is this a major issue? In our territory, it's not a major issue, no. So there's no erosion. There is erosion, but it's not serious enough to mention. How do you work to prevent such erosion? Are there concrete measures being implemented to fight this? Not that I'm aware of. So there's no management of this erosion as such. In terms of management that we do you measure the effects of this? Most of the erosion is in areas where there's free navigation in lakes, or it's either in the seaway or other areas. Another topic I'd like to broach with you is the icebreakers. You mentioned the importance of this. Do you expect, because we know the icebreaker fleet is aging, and this issue is often raised by companies in this sector and by the Chamber of Commerce, do you expect this to be an issue, or have you already seen an issue in terms of the icebreakers right now? It's already an issue with the current navigation season. There's an availability issue, and even when the icebreaker is there is a lack of personnel to operate the icebreaker on a continuous basis. So it's a personnel issue or an equipment issue. Also, there's equipment issue. Even when the icebreaker is there, it has to be operational. What type of issues? What is the extent of the issue? Do we need an extra icebreaker? Is the end-of-life issue a problem? Is there too much to cover? What type of challenge is this? In terms of the Coast Guard, well, they could define exactly what their needs are. I think no one really has identified what the need is for them. But it's the slowdown that's an issue. We get boats through, but we get 2 or 3 boats through a day because we have to wait for the icebreaker to break the ice and open up the seaway. But there's a lack of capacity. Thank you, Mr. Barcelou-Duval. Thank you very much, Mr. Boisclair.
For joining us here on behalf of all members. I want to thank you for your time and for your testimony today. Colleagues, that concludes our meeting. I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. This meeting is adjourned.
you.